Hello, everyone. Today, my overall project focuses on the impact of postpartum depression on young new mothers, especially those that are 18 to 40 years old in the United States. I will be speaking about aspects that contribute to this mental health disorder, as well as propose awareness and give informational resources for you pregnant or postpartum moms to be able to use. I'll also create a pamphlet that will have some resources that new mothers can use when they need any kind of help. And I will also upload this presentation um, as well. Like, I will keep it uploaded on YouTube regarding, the impact of postpartum depression, data and statistical history, and so forth. And these pamphlets will also be distributed through my social media platforms such as Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. Now, what is postpartum depression? So, first of all, childbirth is a big trauma that the human body goes through, but it also does help contribute to creating new life. But you may feel sad, scared, and have mood swings often afterwards. This can usually be due to a condition known as postpartum depression, and this is actually a psychiatric mental health disorder in which, the mother suffers from longer periods of depressive symptoms after childbirth. This is usually because of hormonal falls or changes in the home dynamic as well, such as like increased criticism or, so forth. And post traumatic stress from birth is also a significant factor as well. Not every mother has like a smooth sailing delivery. Some can have traumatic births where complications like excessive severe bleeding or bladder dysfunction can happen during it. And postpartum depression is also very different from the baby blues because the baby blues can cause a mom to have like a shorter period of sadness, while postpartum depression, it lasts much longer. And it also has like feelings of despair, incompetence, or anxiety. And about 1 in 7 women actually suffer from postpartum depression. And like I said again, this mostly impacts women that are like aged 18 to 40 years old. So, determinants of postpartum depression and what could be causing it. So, multiple pressures like, low income, if a mom has previous substance abuse issues, if she's unemployed, and her lack of education, or just if she's in the process of receiving an education while she had when she had the baby, these could all be impacting a mother's health and her likelihood of developing postpartum depression. So, first of all, lower income is statistically associated with lower rates of education and employment. And about 89% of women suffering from postpartum depression, they actually have a college degree or higher, but only 80% of them are employed full time. And I just thought that was like a very interesting statistic to include. Um, and secondly, a lack of employment in this current economy and, lack of funds can create a lot of anxiety in a new mom since they will be scared about not having enough resources to provide for their baby. And some young moms can also struggle to continue their education, especially if they're in high school or college. Um, an unexpected pregnancy can potentially stop that education process. So, with all these circumstances, other stressors like, interference from relatives, disputes with the baby's father if the mother is not with the father at the time of the baby's birth, unsanitary living conditions, and an environment with constant chaos and noise, these could lead to feelings of anger and like hopelessness within a mother. And if the mother is a teenager, especially, she could also be having more frequent conflicts with the baby's grandparents as well. And this again can increase the risk of postpartum depression. So, this statistic is, as I said previously, 89% of women suffering from PPD have a college degree or higher, but only 80% are full time. And I think this kind of just is to further emphasize the current state of the economy right now. So, how does postpartum depression happen? So, postpartum depression, if we think about it from a scientific lens, it can be linked to something known as maternal distress. Now, maternal distress is an adaptive biological response where a mom feels like her maternal instinct or her responsiveness towards caring for her child is threatened in some way. And this is usually, again, like due to outside influences. And postpartum depression also has evolutionarily, from that perspective, it has been linked to something known as the parental investment theory. And this theory states that the energy spent that in raising a child will be more stressful for the mother than the benefit that she will gain from the child itself. And just over time with more research, this mental disorder has been found to be also due to like sudden drops in two hormones, estrogen and progesterone. So estrogen, however, it can also affect the production of other hormones in the body, like serotonin and dopamine. And these are responsible for feelings of like happiness and, just a elevated mood. And when a new mom is suffering from postpartum depression, she does, like I said earlier, have typical emotions of sadness, anger, despair, and immense guilt. These can turn into behaviors like intense and random crying spells, emotional outbursts, angry overreactions. But sometimes new moms can develop postpartum depression as a result of events and experiences such as post traumatic stress from birth, genetic family history, and unsupportive people around them. Also, most importantly, the aspect of or just the idea of suddenly needing to take on such a huge responsibility of raising a child can take a negative toll on a woman's mental health too. And, just the life course approach in general, it brings about like a unique perspective on the parts of postpartum depression. A history of depression in a woman's life at any given moment is a known risk factor for developing it after childbirth, that according to what research has shown. And so, moving on, if we talk about postpartum depression culturally, so research has shown that Black mothers reportedly had lower levels of depression compared to Caucasian mothers, um, and however, this is not to excuse the fact that, like, mentally the mother could also be struggling with the discrimination she faces in medical clinics, as well as, questioning her ability to be a parent overall. And, developmentally, if a mother is a teenager, she'll have a newfound sense of greater independence. And also, postpartum depression has lower rates of awareness being brought about in certain lower socioeconomic communities or just different areas of a city. And, statistically, Taiwan has the higher rate of postpartum depression, and then it's the United States, and then it's Sweden. And so Asian and Caucasian new mothers are actually more likely to, and Sweden has the lowest rate. So Asian and Caucasian new mothers are actually more likely to suffer from PPD compared to other races. In Asian cultures, often there are significant issues with boundaries being respected, conflict with in laws, or overbearing social circles. This could lead to new moms receiving constant criticism on their maternal abilities and unsolicited advice. So, this is also in conjunction with like a massive lack of privacy that new moms feel during the first few days after childbirth. So, in laws also tend to be the most significant obstacle since 87% of women suffering from postpartum depression are married. And, Western societies tend to have a more liberal and progressive outlook on motherhood, but they tend to not provide enough, maternity leave for mothers when it comes to moms that are working. And this also contributes to rising rates of postpartum depression. So, postpartum depression and COVID 19. So, with the COVID-19 pandemic, maternal mental health just got worse overall because moms felt very extremely isolated with the lockdown, and there was a lack of access to mental health resources at greater availability. And, according to research, a big data analysis kind of revealed that the prevalence of postpartum depression was much higher in developed countries after the pandemic compared to before. And this was also like somewhat prevalent in developing countries as well. And as I was talking before about pregnant Black and Hispanic women having increased levels of medical concern and financial strain during this period, this was also most prevalent during COVID, The lack of Medicaid expansion and rising rates of crime in neighborhoods has contributed. So, overall, with this in mind, healthcare workers must normalize removing barriers to help minority women seek the medical care they need without fear of discrimination. Women of color are 3 to 5 times more likely to die from pregnancy related complications compared to Caucasian women. Additionally, new parent support groups for postpartum moms need to be advertised more in medical clinics, specifically in OBGYN offices and pediatric offices too. Professional mental health counseling and therapy can be quite expensive and unaffordable to some moms, but further interventions like affordable mental health resources can help reduce the rates of it. New moms can also feel much more supported by the community as well with that. Um, and a slide that I created, so more about postpartum depression demographics. This is what I was mentioning earlier about women of color and their mortality rate with childbirth, barriers in medical settings, and how pregnant Black and Hispanic women reported increased level of stress during this time period. And so, another possible resource that can be used by new postpartum moms is the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration hotline. And I will provide their resource contact information for that in my pamphlet. It's 24/7, and it helps provide referrals for further care and treatment in the local area of the mother, and it has services in both English and Spanish. And there's also a helpline, text, and call number. There's local support groups for postpartum depression that can help a mom express her thoughts and feelings with other mothers that can relate to her struggles. They can also provide certain coping mechanisms that they implement in their day-to-day life. And new moms can feel like their internal feelings are finally being heard then, and it can provide as a source of stress relief for them as well. And these support groups can be found on local town websites or social media profiles, or through therapy or counseling offices nearby. And a third set of resources that they can utilize are, like I said, counselors and therapists. Sometimes these professionals can refer the mom to to a psychiatrist for a prescription of antidepressants if their case warrants it. But these professionals often work to help the mother have daily tools to use in order to improve their mental state. If a new mom is unable to pay for counseling out of pocket, or if they're uninsured, they can probably afford it if there are options through receiving Medicaid. Other platforms like Growth Therapy or Talkspace are inexpensive, but a resource that I really want to emphasize is Reddit. It's a very supportive community at times. There are certain communities for various different issues throughout the world, or just for anyone suffering with the same medical condition. These allow people to kind of post about their true feelings and life events anonymously under a username, and it can help multiple other new mothers, come forward with their story as well. And so, just also not mentioned previously is that there is a new postpartum depression drug that has been approved by the FDA called Zurzuvae, and this was approved in August of 2023. The testing showed that it still helped new moms feel better up to like 42 days after the last day of their treatment as well. And there's another drug. It's a hormonal drug that can be used. It's called Brexanolone, and it was approved in 2019, which was recent. And this helps supply new moms' bodies with progesterone, since progesterone usually falls when a mom is suffering from postpartum depression. So these are just two new drugs that I thought were very interesting, and they were recently approved by the FDA compared to other treatment options.